Mona wokwe alecha kwekwe kambale kuke kapae jerewo maye.
So the next step inside this journey was that I was in town with my wife, and at this point my faith was very strong compared to what it was when I arrived. I was very clear with myself. I knew that God was with me. And in town, I looked over my wife's shoulder and saw a boy wearing very dirty clothes. And I wanted to go talk to him, and it turned out he was homeless. And I was just in town, and I was just about to jump in the car, and I spotted this young man who was on the street behind me, and his clothes were a bit torn and things. So I invited him over to have a chat and see what was going on. So it turns out that William has been sleeping on the streets for 2 months now. So he hasn't had to sleep in a bed for 2 months, and he said he was very, very hungry as well. So naturally, I told him to jump in the car if he wanted to, and he could come back and sleep in a bed and get something to eat. And he has, so here he is. And now, the boys are just finding him some new clothes, and then he's going to get a shower, I think. So, William, mambo vipi? Shower barrow now. You never know what a day has in store for you in Tanzania. Never ever. And I listened to these children tell me how they had been raped and abused. Some were injecting heroin into their arms. And I said something must be done. I brought 2 such boys back to Featherstill, which is the special needs children's village. When I brought them back to Featherstill, there were problems because these boys have faced a lot of different things in life, crime, etc. And so it didn't work. And I remember very well one boy, he said, "I don't belong with these normal children, take me back to town." And I knew because of some events that this was true. The other children were not safe because of the arrival of these boys. They wouldn't go to other centres, they feared those centres, claiming they'd been beaten, etc. So one day, with a heavy heart, I had to drive a 12-year-old child back to the streets, knowing what awaited them potentially, knowing that potentially, well, once out on those streets, they could be raped or start on the drugs again. That night, I said to God, I will open a centre for these children, but I have no money for it. But I'm asking you to give me a sign. And I asked for a donation of a specific amount of money. And this in the Bible is called laying down a fleece. You lay down a fleece, the ground is wet, the fleece is dry, you have your answer. I laid down my fleece. I put down this amount, and it wasn't enough to open a centre. It was just a specific number to be assigned. The next morning we had one donation. It was that amount. I'd never had a donation for that amount of money. So I set about looking for a property to rent. I made a YouTube video explaining what had happened. By the end of the week, we had the money and we rented a 26-bedroom hostel that was not in use in the local town. Those boys then moved in, and it wound up with the name Angel's Gate because they painted a huge angel on that property's gate, saying that if any children needed to find it, better they know to look for the gate with the angel where they can get help. Since then, we've moved to another property. There's more than 50 of those boys living there at the moment.
Kwa majina naitwa Adam Noel Tunge. Nakumbuka kipindi kile nilipokuwa naishi mazingira magumu mtaani. Mlipokuja kukutana na mimi kwa mida ya saa 3 usiku, mkanijitambulisha kwamba nyinyi ni watu kutoka shirika la Shia Tanzania. Basi mkaamua kutanisha Angels Gate. Nashukuru kwa kuwa mliweza kuniendeleza na masomo na natarajia kumaliza darasa la 7 mwaka huu. Napenda kuwa na watoto wenzangu hapa Angels Gate, tukishirikiana kufanya kazi, mambo mengine na vitu tofauti tofauti.
Kwa majina naitwa John Gregory Chua, nasoma form 1 Kiboroni na naishi Angels Gate. Na pia hapa Angels Gate tuna vipaji aina mbalimbali na inaweza kunisaidia kuinua kwenye vipaji vyangu vya DJ, kuchora. Shukrani kwa sponsor wangu na sponsor wote, asanteni sana.
Naitwa Evans Prosper Mlai. Kipaji changu mimi ni dancing, pia DJ pia naweza kufanya. Najisikia vizuri sana kuwepo Angels Gate.
Angels Gate ni nyumbani kwetu na tunapapenda pia.
Many of those boys are already working, have their own business, working in hotels because they have succeeded and being educated through Angels Gate. Not only that, but we opened a music school next door and we have a lot of strong budding musicians within there.
Records. We were dying in the street for hunger, but now we're feeding again. Sleep around the corner in the street was so sad, but you bring a shelter today. We've been used to cry, but now we smile, 'cause you bring me back in life on again. Lucy, my hope was fine, there was no light. Now you're lighting my life on again. We've been used to cry, but now it's mine, 'cause you bring me back in life on again. Lucy, my hope was fine, there was no light. Now you're lighting my life on again. And now we say thank you, thank you. And now we say thank you, thank you.
So as I'm editing this chapter, some of the footage is unusable because the mic had a problem. And it's 2 parts of the story I'm going to re-record because it can't be missed. The first one comes, we rented this property which you have seen, a 26-bedroom hostel. It had beds, mattresses, a kitchen. We were ready to go, but we had 2 children in this huge property. And so I said to God, I know you'll reveal this and how it's going to work. The very next day, I went to a supermarket and a friend of mine stopped me at the door and I got chatting with them. Because of that, a young man walked by who knew this mutual friend and said hello. We got talking, his name is Modest. And I said to Modest, what do you do? And he said, well, at the moment I'm trying to help street children. I'm helping them to learn how to make jewelry to sell to tourists to try and get them off the street. And I'm doing that because I myself lived on the street for 9 years as a child. And so within 5 minutes of meeting Modest, the day after I opened this center and having all these empty beds and saying to God, let's make use of this, Modest was in my car and we were off to find these boys that he was working with. And within a week, 12 of those boys had moved in to what is now Angels Gate Home. Another hugely important part of this story, and another huge synchronicity. I met somebody via email firstly from Dubai, and this gentleman is very blessed in life and has made himself a success. He contacted me and said he was seeing 1111 and he would like to visit me in Tanzania. So he flew to Tanzania for 3 days and he stayed with us in Featherstone. He had a difficult time there, I will admit. We had a problem with a rat infestation at the time in the section where he was staying, and it was very undeveloped at that stage. but he stuck it out. Thank God he did. And this wonderful soul, whose name I won't mention because I've not asked permission to put them in the video, before they left, they bought a people carrier for the boys to be able to go and visit the ocean. And not only that, Angel's Gate has to be situated in the local town, away from Featherstail, which means we have to rent quite a large property. And the rent is costly. There are classrooms, dormitories, the music school, everything is there. And the dining hall. So it's quite a large expense. And this beautiful blessing of a human being who was seeing and following 1111 made a lifelong commitment to pay the rent for Angel's Gate Home for street-involved children. And so these are two additions I want to put into this chapter, and I'll quickly put them in and say, this is the power of synchronicity. This is the power of knowing, not only is 1111 a common bond between humans who want to bring this new way, this new love to the planet, but also even here in Tanzania, the synchronicities are endless, and these coincidences are so profound. To meet somebody dealing with street children for the first time the day after I opened the center, they are so profound that they cannot be mathematically explained and they cannot be spiritually ignored.
Why must the children play in the streets? Broken hearts and faded dreams. Peace on earth to everyone that you meet. Don't you worry, it could be so sweet. Just look to the rainbow, you will see. The sun will shine till eternity. I've got so much love in my heart, no one can tear it apart, yeah. Be the love generation. Yeah, 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 yeah. Be the love generation. Yeah. Don't worry about a thing, gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, gonna be alright. Gonna be alright. It's our love, you know. It's our love. From I and I to everyone. Got to help, well, we got to help, yeah. There's no need to cry, yeah. Got to help, well, we got to help, yeah. Gotta live that love. You know what I'm talking about? Come on. Be the love generation. Yeah, yeah.
Woo!